Hello and a very warm welcome. I'm Nancy Bora and you're watching News 9 Live, where we bring you top stories of the day. Well, first story coming in from South China Sea, where the armed forces of the Philippines recently released a footage showing Chinese vessel obstructing a Philippine boat attempting to deliver supplies in the disputed waters of the South China Sea. This incident is part of an ongoing series of maritime clashes between the two countries. In response, Manila strongly criticized China's dangerous blocking maneuvers, describing them as dangerous, irresponsible and illegal actions that infringe on Philippine sovereignty and jurisdiction. This condemnation was expressed by Manila's Task Force for the West Philippine Sea. China's Coast Guard, on the other hand, stated that the Philippine vessel had disregarded repeated warnings, crossed in front of the Chinese ship and deliberately incited the collision, shifting the blame to the country. Beijing asserts sovereignty over a significant portion of the South China Sea, including parts within the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei and Indonesia. The Permanent Court of Arbitration ruled in 2016 that China's territorial claims had no legal foundation. Well, now moving on, Russian missile attack on the distribution center in Kharkiv, Ukraine. The missile attack on a postal distribution center in Kharkiv created a massive hole in the roof and destroyed the walls and much of the facility. The strike happened late Saturday evening of 21st October and the center was hit twice. Ukrainian police said that the staff didn't have time to run to shelter from the post center as the siren sounded just a second before the impact. Well, the visuals are coming in from the site where the missile hit the wall. You can see that it destroyed the roofs, it destroyed the wall and much of the facility. The strike happened late Saturday evening and it hit the center twice, causing massive destruction. As we can see in the visual, rescue operations are going on to see that people are safe. The staff who got in between the attack, the rescue operation are going in from the staff so that they are moved back safely from the site. Well, now moving on, another story coming in from the Russia that it has denied a journalist of a US funded Radio Free Europe for failing to register as a foreign agent while visiting for a family emergency. The country has tightened its control over information and media since the start of the Ukraine war, forcing the closure of the last significant independent news outlets and designating many journalists and activists as foreign agents. Take a look at this report.
Alsu Kamasheva, an editor at US-funded Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, has been detained by Russia. That's according to the broadcaster. RFE said the detention was for failing to register as a foreign agent while visiting Russia for a family emergency. Kamasheva, an editor with Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty's Tatar Bashkir service, holds both US and Russian passports. Russia has tightened its control over the media since the start of the Ukraine war. Leading independent news outlets have closed and many journalists and publications designated as so-called foreign agents. The term, which carries Cold War connotations of espionage, is used in Russia to label organizations, journalists, activists and celebrities deemed to be engaging in political activity with foreign support. After the war and the arrest of Wall Street Journal correspondent Evan Gershkovich in March on spying charges, almost all US journalists have left the country. The State Department repeatedly urged US citizens to leave Russia. Kamasheva travelled to Russia on May 20th. As she sought to leave Russia at the end of her trip at Kazan airport, she was detained and her passports were confiscated as she awaited her return flight. She was fined for failing to register her US passport with Russian authorities. In a statement, RFE's acting president Jeffrey Gedmin said, "Alsu is a highly respected colleague, devoted wife and dedicated mother to 2 children. She needs to be released so she can return to her family immediately." Russia's Tatar Inform news agency said Kamasheva had failed to register as a foreign agent while gathering information on Russia's military activity. She could face up to 5 years in prison, according to RFE. The Russian government has yet to comment.
Well, now moving on, a devastating story coming in from West Delhi, where a body of a Swiss woman strangled with chain was found near a government school in West Delhi's Tilak Nagar area on October 20. According to the police, the woman was killed 24 to 48 hours before being found. Her limbs were tied and locked with chains, and the body was decomposed. Also, the body was wrapped in a big black polythene bag as well. However, the police had arrested an accused identified as Gurpreet Singh on October 21. Listen in to what the DCP had to say about the investigation.
कल करीब पौने 9 से 9 बजे के बीच में एक पीसीआर कॉल रिसीव हुई थी तिलक नगर थाने में कि एक महिला की लाश एक स्कूल की दीवार के पास पड़ी हुई है। सूचना मिलते ही लोकल पुलिस हरकत में आई, साथ ही साथ डिस्ट्रिक्ट के स्पेशल स्टाफ और स्पेशलाइज्ड टीम्स को भी वहां पर मौके पर पहुंचने के लिए कहा गया। वहां पर पहुंचकर जो प्रिलिमिनरी इंक्वायरी थी या प्रिलिमिनरी सीन ऑफ क्राइम था उसको देखकर हमें लगा कि ये मर्डर का मामला है, इसलिए धारा 302, 201 आईपीसी के तहत हमने मुकदमा दर्ज करके और तफ्तीश शुरू की।
Well, now moving on, as the tension between the two countries, India and Canada, continues to escalate, it's the students who are getting worried about their future and career aspirations. Indian students aspiring to study abroad are worried about their career after Canada suspended in-person operations at consulates in several Indian cities, including Chandigarh. The country has also warned of visa processing delays amid a diplomatic dispute over the murder of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Canada has also withdrawn 41 diplomats from India after Indian government asked Ottawa to reduce its diplomatic presence last month.
मैं कनाडा जाना चाहती थी, बट अब तो ऐसा लग रहा है कि शायद मेरा ये सपना पूरा ही नहीं हो पाएगा, क्योंकि कनाडा ने इतने अलग अलग तरीके से अलग अलग रूल्स ले आए हैं। उन्होंने बायोमेट्रिक के जो सेंटर्स थे वो भी बंद कर दिए हैं चंडीगढ़ में, और मैंने सुना है मुंबई में भी शायद बंद कर दिए हैं। अब बायोमेट्रिक की डेट नहीं मिलेगी, और मिलेगी तो फिर वो दिल्ली जाना पड़ेगा उसके लिए, वो एक अलग टेंशन, उसमें टाइम लगेगा, वहां पे इतनी भीड़ होगी। जब सब जगह बंद हो जाएगा और एक ही जगह खुला होगा तो वहां पे कितनी ज्यादा भीड़ हो जाएगी, और उसके बाद पता भी नहीं कि उस भीड़ से परेशान हो कि कहीं वो भी ना बंद कर दें।
देखो जी, मैं पंजाब हरियाणा की बात करूं, 7,000 8,000 बच्चा प्लस चला जाता है। कहीं ना कहीं हम यहाँ पर हम चंडीगढ़ में बंद कर दिया, दिल्ली में बच्चा जाएगा, उससे बच्चे को हरासमेंट भी होगी, काम में डिले भी होगा, क्योंकि पहले था आधा काम जैसे मतलब कनाडा में डिवाइड था, है ना, दिल्ली में डिवाइड था, अब एकदम से वहां पर रश पड़ जाएगा और चीजों को डिले भी लगेगा। कहीं ना कहीं बच्चे थोड़ा सा स्ट्रेस में भी आएंगे
कि सर इसका बहुत ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट पड़ रहेगा हमारी स्टडीज को लेके। हमारे करियर पे बात आई पड़ी है कि अभी जैसे पहले हमारे यहाँ पे चंडीगढ़ में फैसिलिटीज थी कि हम यहाँ से वीजा अप्लाई कर सकते थे, पर अब इसकी सर्विसेज बंद होने की वजह से हमें हर छोटे बड़े काम के लिए दिल्ली मूव करना पड़ता है।
Well, those were the voices of Indian students who are worried about their future aspirations. But moving on, as India-Canada diplomatic dispute escalates, Canada's opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, said that Canada needs professional relationship with India. The Conservative Party leader asserted that if he becomes Canada's Prime Minister, he will restore the professional relationship between the two nations. Poilievre calls Prime Minister Justin Trudeau not worth the cost for 8 years. He blamed Trudeau for being incompetent and unprofessional, as Canada is in dispute with all major powers, including India. And now moving on, in a significant market development, Tesla and other electric vehicle manufacturing companies suffered a sharp decline in their stock prices on Thursday. Tesla, which is the world's highest valued automobile manufacturer, saw a staggering drop of 9%. This equates to a potential loss of around $70 billion in its market value. Now, this downturn comes out days after Tesla CEO Elon Musk expressed concerns over the impact of high interest rates on consumer demand. Take a look at this report.
Shares of Tesla and other electric vehicle makers plummeted on Thursday, a day after Tesla CEO Elon Musk warned that high interest rates could sap consumer demand. The world's most valuable automaker sank more than 9% and was set to lose about $70 billion in market value. On a post-earnings call Wednesday, Musk said he wanted more clarity on the economy before ramping up a planned Tesla factory in Mexico. His concerns? High borrowing costs that could deter consumers and, quote, paycheck-to-paycheck pressures on American workers. The comments marked a change in tone from Musk, who last year said his company was, quote, recession resilient. The EV maker missed quarterly revenue estimates by the most in more than 3 years, despite hefty price cuts. Tesla is not the only EV maker worried about demand. General Motors this week said it would delay production by a year of its Chevrolet Silverado and GMC Sierra electric pickup trucks at a plant in Michigan. Ford last week said it would temporarily cut one of 3 shifts at a plant that builds its F-150 Lightning pickup trucks. The automaker in July already slowed its EV ramp-up, shifting investment to commercial vehicles and hybrids. And EV startup Lucid reported a near 30% plunge in third-quarter production this week, while Amazon-backed Rivian, which makes electric pickup trucks and SUVs, also disappointed investors this month when it shied away from raising its full-year production forecast. Shares of Lucid and Rivian were down roughly 3% and 4% respectively in Thursday afternoon trading.
Well, another interesting story coming from San Francisco, where fully automatic robo-taxis are driving around in the San Francisco. There is no human being behind the wheel. The vehicles are steered by artificial intelligence. Now, how are people reacting to these innovative vehicles? Take a look.
Driverless cars like this one are a common sight here in famously tech-friendly San Francisco. Cameras, radar and LiDAR technology continuously scan the car's surroundings. The cabs use cloud-based map systems to navigate their way through the city. But the technology isn't perfect. Cars don't always wait where they should, and often stop when they get confused, blocking traffic.
I don't know why we're stopped.
Accidents have happened. One car crashed into a fire truck in San Francisco, sparking protest, especially amongst taxi drivers.
They are a menace. They stop unexpectedly. They actually have broken the law many times. We see them signal one way and then go another way.
Sharon Giovinazzo is more convinced. Her non-profit is partnered with an autonomous car provider. And for a blind person, no driver means no discrimination.
One of the things I found out with taxis and rideshare services, because I choose to have a guide dog to navigate the world, is they will leave me standing on the side of the street and they will cancel rides even after they pull up and they see the dog. They don't want to have the dog in their vehicle. Whereas here, there's no opinion because there's no driver.
And autonomous vehicles can navigate traffic more smoothly than a human being, she says.
When you're like, or that sudden stop that's made, or you feel people swerving and people honking at you and not being able to see what's going on. It's fearful. It really is. I've never had one fear sitting in one of these. I just say that it's welcome to the future.
So far, robo-taxis are something of an experiment. And not all people in San Francisco want their city to be a test track. But it seems they are here to stay.
And now shifting our focus to another big story, where Oscar winner George Clooney and other top Hollywood stars have offered $150 million to SAG-AFTRA Actors Union as part of a proposal to end the actors' strike as it nears its 100th day. The offer would provide the union an extra $150 million over 3 years and could help fund improved health benefits. Take a look at this report.
Actor George Clooney and other top Hollywood stars have offered $150 million to the SAG-AFTRA Actors Union as part of a proposal to end a strike that has lasted almost 100 days. Clooney's spokesperson confirmed the offer on Thursday, saying the money given the union over the next 3 years could help fund improved health benefits. Having better health benefits has been one of the union's demands during negotiations with major studios like Netflix and Warner Brothers. The entertainment news site Deadline first reported the story, citing Clooney as saying that, quote, a lot of top earners want to be part of the solution. He also said top stars would only collect residuals once lower-paid actors received theirs. A SAG-AFTRA spokesperson didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Clooney's remarks come after talks between the union and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers broke down last week. Members of SAG-AFTRA have been on strike since July, disrupting TV and film production, which has left thousands of crew members and actors without work. Early this month, the Writers Guild, which had been striking in parallel, ratified a new 3-year contract with salary increases as well as better health benefits and pension funds. They were on strike for 148 days.
Well, famous breakdancer George Kaminju, who is also known as Muzia Africa, dreams of making it to the Olympics one day. He says the lack of support from Kenyan government, which does not recognize it as a sport, is holding him back and the community back as well.
In Nairobi, Kenya, breakdancing is taking off. Breakdancer Muzushi Africa was introduced to the art a decade ago and credits the dance for giving him direction.
For me, it was very appealing to the eye to see like some of the crazy moves these people are doing. And I remember at the time being like very interested, like I want to do this.
Muzushi Africa is now a pillar in Nairobi's breakdancing community. He says 10 years ago, little was known about breaking, which has since become recognized as an Olympic sport and will feature in the Paris 2024 Games. He now hosts workshops and events in hopes that more exposure will allow Kenya's breakdancers to make it to the Olympics one day. However, he says the challenges to pursuing this goal are many, and he attributes it to the lack of support from the Kenyan government.
You know, at the moment, breaking or breakdancing is in the Olympics. And, you know, that would have been a very nice spot, you know, for government to come in and start supporting the local breakdancing scene. But unfortunately, we do not have a dance sport federation, which is what is required in Kenya for you to get support from the National Olympic Committee. This was not a unique situation. There is actually, for all of Africa, only 8 countries have a federation out of 54.
Muzushi Africa has performed internationally, most recently in Taiwan, but he has to rely on sponsorships and donations to attend the competitions.
The art of breaking is yet to monetize, and so there is a lot of breakdancers who are really good at what they do, but they are yet to make an income or to get a revenue stream from breaking.
Still, the Kenyan breakdancing community is optimistic. Here's professional dancer Francis Mututri.
Now, since breaking has been recognized in the Olympics, now a lot of people have hope. For now, I can say breaking it's going somewhere. We're heading somewhere.
Well, now it's time to dwell into the latest business and finance developments, where market reaction to the Israel-Hamas conflict have been relatively subdued, with the index suggesting investor confidence, and how important it is to keep an eye on oil prices, which is acting as a significant indicator. Take a look.
From escalating tension in the Middle East to China's property pain, these are the stories to watch in business and finance. Market reaction to the conflict between Israel and militant group Hamas has been relatively modest so far. Wall Street's so-called fear gauge, the VIX index, shows investors are not as nervous as they were when Russia invaded Ukraine last year. Oil is the barometer to watch. Flash manufacturing and service sector activity surveys in the coming days could add to uncertainty. The European Central Bank meets on Thursday. It will likely have one eye on the Middle East and the other on a weakening economy. The ECB says it's still quite some distance from easing monetary policy, but traders can expect a pause for now. Microsoft and Alphabet results are due on Tuesday, Meta Platforms on Wednesday, and Amazon on Thursday. Those stocks, along with Apple, Nvidia, and Tesla combined, have accounted for the bulk of the S&P 500's 11% year-to-date gain, so any results disappointment could have broad fallout. Third quarter GDP and the monthly personal consumption expenditures price index are also due. Property turmoil threatens China's 5% growth target, even after a consensus-smashing 4.9% quarterly expansion. That hasn't escaped investors, who pushed mainland shares to a nearly one-year trough. A lot of what's happening is hidden from view, and pressure on Beijing for further stimulus is strong. Steps so far have disappointed.
Well, there's no doubt that the next future generation is going to get ruled by artificial intelligence, as it is now helping to train brain surgeons to perform critical operations more effectively and safely, according to the UK's National Hospital for Neurology and Neurosurgery. Take a look at this report.
Could artificial intelligence be used to make brain surgery safer? At this university in London, trainee surgeon Daniel Khan is taking part in a mock operation, during which he's assisted by a real-time video feed, as is typical in brain surgery. But what's new here is that the footage is being analyzed by AI to help Khan better understand what he's seeing. The AI system, which is under development at University College London, highlights sensitive or critical structures in the brain. Neurosurgeon Hanny Marcus believes it has the potential to make brain surgery safer and more effective.
So I'm very bullish that in the medium to long term, the AI will be helping lots of surgeons do lots of operations better than they otherwise can.
Marcus says the AI system analyzed video of more than 200 pituitary gland tumor operations and gained around 10 years worth of experience in a fraction of the time. That knowledge means the AI can now not only help navigate to the correct area of the brain, but also know what should be happening at any stage of the procedure, making it a valuable training aid.
What we're really trying to do is apply AI, or artificial intelligence, to support surgeons doing brain tumor surgery at the base of the brain. And what this practically entails is us training the AI with hundreds of videos, telling it, if you like, what structures are what. And then at some point over that period, the AI becomes really good itself at recognizing things and able to support other surgeons who are perhaps less experienced in advising them what to do next.
Assistant Professor of Robotics and AI Sophia Bano explains how that might look in a real operation.
There can be scenarios where clinicians unintentionally are very close to a very critical structure such as optic nerve. This can have any damage or a slight more pressure on the optic nerve can have long-term complications on the patient side. So this whole tool will alert the surgeon during the procedure if there is any risk of potential complications, so they can recalibrate themselves during the procedure.
Khan, who was also involved in developing the software that is now helping him learn, says the AI system has been a valuable tool in his training. It could also provide him with step-by-step guidance during a procedure, similar to having a senior surgeon standing over your shoulder.
I think as I progress as a surgeon, there might be stages where I wonder, have I done enough of a particular part of the procedure and should I move on? And actually having that sort of assistant in the background as a reassurance to look at and say, well, yeah, actually at this stage, out of the hundreds of videos of experts that this algorithm has watched, the experts would probably start moving on to the next phase. It's a useful double check.
According to UCL, the system could be ready to be used in operating theaters within 2 years.
And now moving on to another story, El Nino, which reduced rainfall in monsoon, will now impact winter as well. According to the World Meteorological Organization and the US Meteorological Agency, El Nino has an 85% chance of remaining active in the northern hemisphere until May 2024. Due to this effect, the sea surface temperature is currently at 1.3 degrees higher than the average. Such an increase in sea temperature has been recorded for the first time since February to April 2016. Former Secretary of the Ministry of Earth Sciences and Meteorological Department, Dr. Madhavan Nair Rajivan, quoting the European Centre for Medium Range Weather Forecast model, said that due to El Nino, there will not be much cold in the coming winter. The winter season will also be short, which means that there will be fewer cold days. From November to February, the temperature will be above normal, so there is less scope for cold wave. Here, the Indian Meteorological Department has not yet released the forecast for the winter season as well. Well, now it's time to shift our focus to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Hamas, where in the next couple of minutes we are going to give you all the latest updates coming from the war that has been going on for 16 days now. Well, India on Sunday sent humanitarian aid to war-torn Gaza Strip even as the conflict between Israel and Hamas continues to rage on. Air Force flight carrying nearly 6.5 tons of medical aid and 32 tons of disaster relief material have been sent to Palestine. According to Ministry of External Affairs, the IAF flight IAF C-17 departed for El Arish Airport in Egypt. The ministry said that the material included essential life-saving medicines, surgical items, tents, sleeping bags, tarpaulins, sanitary utilities and water purification tablets among other necessary items. The items will be sent to Palestine via the Rafah border crossing between Egypt and Gaza. India's aid to Palestine comes 3 days after Prime Minister Modi spoke to Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. PM Modi stated that India will continue to send humanitarian aid to Gaza while also expressing condolences for the loss of lives in the Strip. The Israel-Hamas conflict, which began on October 7, has led to a massive humanitarian crisis in the Middle East as well. Now moving on, Israel finally allowed humanitarian aid in Gaza on Saturday after 12 days of siege. The aid flowed through the Rafah border crossing from Egypt, carrying food, water and medical supplies. The UN said that 8 convoys included life-saving supplies and would be distributed in South Gaza by the Palestinian Crescent. The UN also said that 100 convoys would be needed every day in Gaza as aid. Israel didn't allow any fuel to enter Gaza as Hamas can use that to make weapons. President Biden cheered for the arrival of aid in Gaza and said that he would keep working with all the parties so that he could ensure humanitarian aid from Rafah crossing and that the crossing remains open.
At the instruction of the government, aid was entering through the Rafah crossing carrying food, water and medicine, that is for the population in the southern area of Gaza only. Fuel was not entered into Gaza.
And now moving on, as trucks carrying humanitarian aid crossed into Gaza on Saturday, some Gazans said that it was far from what was needed to help over 2 million people currently under siege in the Strip. Take a look.
The first convoy of trucks carrying humanitarian aid crossed into Gaza Saturday from the Egyptian border. It comes after 12 days of total siege of the Strip since the October 7th attack on southern Israel by Hamas militants, which killed 1,400 Israelis. But for many who have been displaced in the growing conflicts, 20 trucks are simply not enough for the enclave's 2.3 million people. Where is your humanity? We need to know what is being done, says this man, who is calling on Arab countries to send help. Before the outbreak of war, an average of about 450 aid trucks were arriving daily in Gaza. Since the October 7th attack, Israel has hammered Gaza with airstrikes. Here, in a crowded school in Gaza's south, Tahrir Tabash and her children are among hundreds of other families taking shelter from Israeli bombardment. She says that if her children hear so much as a chair being moved, they jump in fear.
Our children suffer a lot at night. They cry all night. They pee themselves without meaning to. And I don't have time to clean up after them, one after the other. The place is full. I can't take care of my children. Clean for them, I can't. There is not even 1% of a good, healthy, and safe life for a child. There is no safety. If we don't die from war, we will die from epidemics and diseases.
More than 4,000 Palestinians have been killed, including hundreds of children, and 13,000 wounded in Gaza, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. The United Nations says more than 1 million have been made homeless. There are no safe bomb shelters in Gaza, where over 50% of Palestinians live in poverty. In Egypt, Arab leaders condemned the siege of Gaza at a summit convened hastily to find a peace settlement. But the absence of Israel and senior U.S. officials at the meeting undermined any prospect for halting the escalating war.
And now moving on, Pakistan's former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has returned home on a special flight from Dubai after a 4-year self-imposed exile in UK to head his party and try to secure a record 4th term in the general election expected to be held in January. The 73-year-old veteran politician led a rally in his hometown of Lahore after his plane's arrival in Islamabad with 194 people from his party and media organizations. Former Pakistan Premier Nawaz Sharif has condemned Israeli siege of Gaza, saying that the ongoing cruelties that are being inflicted on the people of Palestine are against human rights. He added that Palestinians should get their rights so that they can also spend peaceful lives.
अल्लाह ताला फ़लस्तीन की मदद करे, हम सब मिलकर फ़लस्तीन की मदद करें, उनको जुल्म से बचाएं, उन पे जो इस वक्त जुल्म का सिलसिला जो जारी है वो इंसानियत के खिलाफ जुल्म है, हम उसको हर तरीके से कंडेम करते हैं। मेरे साथ मिलके कहो, हम हर तरह से उसको रद्द करते हैं, बोलो रद्द करते हैं। फ़लस्तीन का बाइज़्ज़त हल निकालो, उनका हक उनको वापस दिया जाए और उनका हक उनको मिले, वो भी चैन सुकून से अपनी जिंदगी गुजार सकें। उनको हक से महरूम करना और उसका हक किसी और को दे देना, ये बहुत बुरी बात है, इसको हम कभी कबूल नहीं करेंगे। पाकिस्तान कभी कबूल नहीं करेगा, पाकिस्तान के अवाम कभी कबूल नहीं करेंगे।
Well, his return to Pakistan happened not long ago after an Islamabad court granted him protective bail, meaning that he can't be arrested before he shows up in the court. This adds to the already tense atmosphere in the lead up to a chaotic election. Pakistan has been dealing with political turmoil ever since they removed another Prime Minister, Imran Khan, who used to be a rival of Sharif. The Cairo summit, hosted by Egypt on Saturday, failed to reach an agreement on how to contain the violence between Israel and Hamas. Arab leaders condemned the Israeli bombardment of Gaza, while mostly Western countries said that civilians should be shielded. But with Israel and senior US officials absent, there was no consensus on how to resolve the conflict. The message the Arab world is hearing is loud and clear. That is what King Abdullah II of Jordan said in his remarks. Palestinian lives matter less than Israeli ones. Our lives matter less than other lives. The application of international law is optional and human rights have boundaries. They stop at borders, they stop at races, and they stop at religions. That is what the Jordan leader said. The European countries didn't agree to sign the charter brought forward by Egypt as it omitted out Israel's right of self-defense against Hamas. After hours of speeches, the gaping divide between the Western countries and Arab countries remain as pronounced as ever. However, despite the lack of a summit declaration, it was clear that even the Western countries agreed to a steady flow of humanitarian aid in Gaza, with many promising to increase the aid.
We warn of any attempts to displace our people from Gaza, and we also warn of any attempts to expel Palestinians from their homes or displacing them from Jerusalem or the West Bank, because we will not accept displacement and we will remain steadfast on our land no matter the challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, we will not leave, we will not leave, we will not leave, and we will remain on our land. I can assure the world very clearly and honestly of the will of the Egyptian people that the solution to the Palestinian issue will not happen under any circumstance at the expense of Egypt ever. I invited you all here today so we can together come to an agreement on a roadmap that aims at ending the current humanitarian disaster in Gaza and to revive a path to peace through several fronts, starting with a guarantee of a safe, complete, fast and continuous flow of humanitarian assistance to Gaza that is immediately followed by negotiations for a ceasefire and quick negotiations leading to a two-state solution and the foundation of an independent Palestinian state.
Because even if our starting points were not perfectly the same, our interest is perfectly the same. That is, the interest of all the leaders sitting around this table that what is happening in Gaza does not become a much wider conflict. That it does not turn into a religious war and a clash of civilization, rendering in vain the efforts that have courageously been made in recent years to normalize relations.
There are innocent victims on both sides. There are civilians kept hostages, and no peace can be discussed until they are free. And there are civilians killed and wounded in horrible conditions, brutally assassinated in their homes in Israel, losing their lives in the destruction of the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza. The position of Greece has been very clear from the beginning. Israel has a right of self-defense, but in accordance with international and humanitarian law. And I also want to be clear that collective punishment is prohibited by the laws of war. And these laws were designed to ensure that when war must be conducted, there are limits on what harm can be done to other human beings. We are ready to contribute to any peace initiative, and as a neighboring country, we hope that an immediate de-escalation can be attained and humanitarian aid can be provided to all civilians. The future that we want for this region, the future of sustainable peace, stability and prosperity can only be attained with a resumption of the peace process on the basis of a two-state solution. And if one thing should be clear to all of us is that no military intervention can replace a viable political solution.
Well, as the tension between Israel and Hamas continues to escalate, PM Netanyahu met Italian PM Giorgia Meloni on Saturday. Calling on the Italian Prime Minister, Netanyahu said that we have to defeat this barbarism, adding that this battle is between the forces of civilization and really monstrous barbarians. Meloni assured Netanyahu of Italy's support for Israel. She said Italy recognized Israel's right of defending itself. She added that terrorism has to be fought and to be done. It is in the best way. So we are different from the terrorists. And now moving on, Israeli military spokesperson Admiral Daniel Hagari, while speaking to the reporters on Saturday, stated that Israel will step up its strikes on Gaza to increase pressure on Hamas ahead of an expected ground invasion. We have to enter the next phase of the war in the best conditions, not according to what anyone tells us. From today, we are increasing the strikes and minimizing the danger. That is what the military spokesperson Admiral Daniel Hagari told a press conference. He added that we will increase the attacks and therefore I called on the Gaza City residents to continue moving south for their safety, he added.
For your own safety, move southward. We will continue to attack in the area of Gaza City and increase attacks. The humanitarian aid that has entered to UNRWA from Egypt, we are supervising it to ensure that the water, medicine and water are distributed in this humanitarian area we have set.
His comments come in the backdrop of first international aid reaching Gaza on Saturday. Nearly a dozen of Egyptian trucks carrying relief materials such as medical supplies was finally allowed to enter the Rafah crossing. Well, now moving on, Israel amps up its preparation for impending ground offensive of Gaza. Formation of Israeli tanks and other military equipments are positioned and preparing around Gaza's border in southern Israel. Israeli soldiers can be seen preparing equipments, loading ammunition and stocking up on food and water outside Kibbutz Be'eri, which is located just a few kilometers from the border with the Gaza Strip. IDF has also been dropping leaflets in Gaza as well as mobile phones audio messages asking people to move from North Gaza. IDF has warned the Gaza residents if they stay back in North Gaza, they will be identified as terrorist sympathizers. Israel is also securing its Lebanon border by deploying their military forces in the face of a probable attack from Hezbollah as well. Moving on, amid the ongoing Israel-Gaza conflict, Israeli soldiers came together to sing Shabbat song as symbol of unity. As near the border, they prepare for a possible ground invasion in the near future. You can see soldiers gathering up, coming together and boosting each other's morale and singing the Shabbat song as they build up as a symbol of unity. Well, after Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to fight until victory, Israel continues its heavy bombardment throughout the Gaza Strip and over the trucks carrying humanitarian aid crossing the besieged enclave on Saturday.
In Gaza's Khan Yunis, a bulldozer clears the rubble of a house hit by an airstrike. Israel kept up its heavy bombardment of targets throughout Gaza overnight on Saturday. That's after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to fight until victory, following the release of the first 2 hostages held by Gaza's ruling Hamas group. Israel's military said fighter jets had struck a large number of Hamas targets throughout the Gaza Strip. In Khan Yunis, Izzeldin Al-Farah said he was one of 24 people who lived in this destroyed building. He asked what any of them had done to Israel. The Israeli military reported a fresh salve of attacks from Gaza against southern Israeli border communities before dawn, and later sirens sounding in the port city of Ashdod to the north of the Palestinian enclave. There was no immediate word of casualties in either incident. On Friday, Hamas released Americans Judith Renan and her teenage daughter Natalie, the first hostages confirmed by both sides to have been freed. They were among 200 kidnapped in an October 7th cross-border attack by Hamas militants, in which 1,400 people, mainly civilians, were killed. It was the deadliest single attack on Israelis since the country's founding 75 years ago. Gaza's health ministry said Israel's retaliatory air and missile strikes have killed more than 4,000 Palestinians, including hundreds of children. Over 1 million of the besieged enclave's 2.3 million population are reported to have been displaced. The United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Office said more than 140,000 homes, nearly a third of all homes in Gaza, had been damaged, with nearly 13,000 completely destroyed. International attention has been focused on getting aid to Gaza through the one access point not controlled by Israel. On Saturday, the first trucks carrying aid passed through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. The UN said the 20-truck convoy included life-saving supplies that would be received by the Palestinian Red Crescent. Hamas said the delivery, which follows days of diplomatic wrangling, included medicine and limited amounts of food. UN officials say at least 100 trucks a day are needed in Gaza to cover urgent needs, and that any delivery of aid needs to be sustained and at scale.
Well, now another development coming in from the Israel-Syria front is that Israeli airstrikes on Sunday have disrupted the operation of Syria's 2 main airports, according to state media, which was citing a military source. Following the strike, flights were rerouted to Latakia. These strikes, which hit Damascus and Aleppo international airports simultaneously, mark the second such occurrence this month, coinciding with the recent conflict between Israel and Hamas. The strike resulted in the death of a civilian worker at Damascus airport and material damage to the runways, rendering them inoperable. The military source stated that the strikes originated from the Mediterranean west of Latakia and the direction of the occupied Syrian Golan. Now moving on, from across the world, Palestinians have been garnering supports coming from United States first, where pro-Palestinian protests erupted on the streets. Thousands of protesters took to the streets in New York to denounce Israeli bombings in the Gaza Strip. Protesters chanted "Free Palestine" and also called for an end to Israeli occupation and the liberation of the Palestinian terrorists. They accused Israel of genocide and called for the US to withdraw support of its Middle Eastern ally. Well, after US, pro-Palestinians demonstration took place in several cities of Germany as well. In Frankfurt, approximately 1,500 participants gathered at the Alte Oper area waving Palestinian flags and accusing the German government of involvement in the Israeli retaliatory attacks in the Gaza Strip. In Berlin, several hundred people marched from the Kaiserberg to Neukölln, where pro-Palestinian protests had been ongoing since the October 7th attack by Hamas in southern Israel. In the Austrian capital, around 1,200 people attended a rally in support of Gaza residents. There were no immediate reports of arrest or violence. And now moving on, hundreds of Pakistani women also rallied in Karachi on Saturday to express their support for Palestinian people as Israel makes preparation for an expected land incursion into Gaza. Demonstrators belonging to Majlis Wahadat-e-Muslimin, an Islamist party, chanted "Death to Israel" as they marched through the streets of the port city. In another part of Karachi, protesters held a vigil condemning Israel's violence against Palestinians in Gaza. Another story coming in from Jerusalem, where people from South Israel left their homes and moved to Jerusalem due to the Israel-Hamas conflict. Here's what they have to say.
From the second day of the war, from after Saturday, Sunday, was full tourists here, full business for everybody. Now nobody in the streets.
Why?
Because the war, everybody is afraid.
And is there any problem that will not get inside to the Arab taxi, Arabic
Yes,
taxi?
of course. Now all the Jewish in the west side, they can't come to the east side and then go with the Arabic drivers.
Why?
Because the situation, it's now very, very bad situation. So it's like, what you call it in English, I forget.
Earlier it was not happen.
Yes, when in regular days everybody work together. Now nobody like to see each other. Checkpoints everywhere, you see. They see every Arabic guy entrance to the old city. They catch him, they check him, everything. Sometimes they call him to go back. On Friday to go to the mosque. They don't let us to pray inside the mosque.
It's not the Hamas case or it's Hamas problem. It's the problem now with what's happening in Gaza for the civilians people. It's not this is the problem. The problem is like the war is like happening. It's like it's not the case as well as you start your question. Sorry to tell you, is propaganda questions. Always they ask the Palestinian, is Hamas terrorist or not terrorist? You have to ask what's happening around. It's like for us, for example, we are from Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, and we are not with this war, and not in this war, and how they are behaving to us is like we are the soldiers of Hamas, how they are behaving with the people here in Jerusalem. Even East Jerusalem is far away from the war. Yes, how they are the soldiers, the police, it's like how they are pressing on us, and they behave with us is like we are all Hamas.
Well, get ready for an incredible celebration. The Festival of India, brought to you by TV9 Network, which is all set to light up the Major Dhyan Chand Stadium in Delhi from October 20th to 24th. And guess what? Entry is absolutely free. Starting at 10 AM on the 20th, this explosive event is your pre-Diwali extravaganza, offering a treasure trove of goods from India and around the world. Even if you are hungry, don't worry, we have got your back with over 100 food stalls serving up scrumptious dishes from various Indian states and international favorites as well. But it doesn't stop at food. You can shop from home appliances to stylish clothing to latest gadgets, electronic goodies, furniture, two-wheelers and more at all fantastic prices. And the fun doesn't end here. We are rolling out exhibitions from Italy, Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, Thailand and other countries. Plus, live music to keep the festival vibes high. There will be amazing programs showcasing the unique art and culture of different states, giving you a taste of Indian life in all its vibrant glory. So join us for all the Festival of India, a vibrant blend of shopping, delicious treats and unforgettable experiences. It's a date that you don't want to miss.
बंगाल में नारी जाति शक्ति के लिए भी पूजित होते हैं और आपको पता होगा हमारे कंपनी ने अभी HR ने वाव एक वी ऑनबोर्ड वुमेन एक इनिशिएटिव लागू किया है। तो हम ये सोचते हैं एज एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हम लोग विमेन एम्पावरमेंट के बारे में बहुत सजग रहते हैं और इसीलिए दुर्गा पूजा इज़ अ सिंबॉलिक फेस्टिविटी of celebrating women empowerment and the power of women empowerment. हम न्यूज़ चैनल है, न्यूज़ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, देश के सबसे बड़ा न्यूज़ नेटवर्क है, तो हम जो भी करते हैं उसमें हमारे दर्शकों के लिए कोई संदेशा रहता है। हम सिर्फ बिजनेस के लिए कुछ भी नहीं करते।
देखिए, दुर्गा पूजा शक्ति की आराधना का पर्व है। हम सबको शक्ति चाहिए, ताकत चाहिए। हम देश, समाज और अपने नेटवर्क की ताकत के संकल्प के साथ इस पूजा का शुभारंभ कर रहे हैं। आपको देश की जो विविधता है, यह देश इतना विविध है, उसके दर्शन इस पंडाल में होंगे। सभी देशों के, सभी प्रांतों के रहन सहन और खान पान का यहाँ इंतजाम है।
Well, that's all the time we have for you on the show, but don't go anywhere as we bring you latest updates on the Israel-Hamas conflict and other top trending stories from around the globe. Stay tuned and keep watching News 9 Live.
Delhi has the fastest growing metro network among G20 nations. From 6 stations in 2002, it today has 286 stations. Reliability, cleanliness and affordability have set the template for other Indian metros. The architect of this modern-day world-class marvel is E. Sridharan. Watch the extraordinary life of Metro Man E. Sridharan streaming now on News 9 Plus. Download now.
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it. It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.
Nobody can contain it. Not the United States, not China, not anybody else.
Frenemies. This and more. Streaming on the world's first news OTT, News 9 Plus. Download now.
There are 22 Arab countries in the world stretching across North Africa and the Middle East. This is a geographical swath from the Atlantic